being a marketplace doesn't necessarily like reinvent the wheel. And I think anybody that's using Crexi now already knows that, our interface and the user experience is the best in the market right now. And people don't like losing, just especially in this industry. People love to win. So
listen, everybody, we all know that real estate is the most proven way to build wealth. But why isn't everyone wealthy from real estate then? It's hard to know where to start, and most of the education out there is just complete trash, and you end up investing your money on a series of courses instead of in real estate. That's not how this podcast works. We give you the blueprint to successful real estate investing and bring on guests actually willing to share their secrets. I started my real estate investing journey as a freshman in college when I bought my first duplex and have been in the trenches doing deals ever since. And today, I now own hundreds of millions of dollars of investment property. On this podcast, you will learn what you actually need to know to be a successful active or passive real estate investor. And we'll offer our takes on what's happening today so you can navigate this market and build wealth. I'm Drew Brenneman, and this is the Brenneman Blueprint.
All right. Today we have Yannis Papadakis on the podcast today. He's with Crexi. Welcome, Yannis.
Hi, Drew. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. And thanks for coming on to my podcast too. Like, it's good to reciprocate and be on somebody else's for a change.
Yeah, no, that was a fun episode. So it was a good time. A lot of good questions on that one. But yeah, I just wanted to get into it. So maybe tell us a little bit about yourself, and then let's hear about Crexi.
Yeah. So, born and raised in Southern California, the South Bay specifically. I was born in San Pedro. Grew up in the South Bay, kind of around commercial real estate. My dad owned liquor stores, and then bought the underlying property, the shopping centers they were in. So I grew up working the liquor stores as a kid, and then later getting into property management, kind of watching, my old man do it first. And then, went to school in South Florida at Lynn University, came back to Southern California, and then got into brokerage. I was doing investment sales at Marcus Millichap in downtown Los Angeles first. And there's where I kind of learned the business of real estate investment sales, kind of cut my teeth there. They have a really strong training program, so it was really good for learning the business, learning about brokerage. I was there for about 4 or 5 years. Initially started with apartments in like the Silver Lake, East Hollywood area, and then transitioned to net leased properties. At the time, a lot of apartment owners in Southern California were exiting the market here and then looking for upleg opportunities out of state with, higher returns and lower management responsibilities. So facilitating that transition from SoCal apartments into net leased retail was kind of where I kind of lived, built a little team while I was at Marcus. It's kind of how I got into Crexi, actually, was when I started doing net lease retail, trying to build a book of business, trying to establish a brand in a pretty competitive market. So, trying to leverage every tool we could to, distinguish ourselves as a team from the other, more established, more experienced net lease groups out there. We were really doing everything we could to, market hard and get, more at bats, talking to buyers, sellers. So we adopted Crexi really early. Crexi started in 2015, I think officially 2014, but I don't think the ball actually got rolling until 2015. And we immediately started utilizing it to market our properties, our net lease properties. For us, it was really transformational. It was providing a service that the other marketing platforms at the time weren't really doing. The way that, brokers had approached marketing on a platform prior to that was, you put it up there and you wait for a motivated buyer to reach out, and say, hey, I want to buy this deal, which is kind of a reactive way of marketing. And we found that with Crexi, they were giving us full transparency into not only who was interested in the deal, but, who was looking at it, from every level of interest, whether they just visited the page or they downloaded the OM, how many times they visited the page, if they downloaded due diligence, what they downloaded, how many times they downloaded it. And so for a new agent, it really changed the way that we approached the business, because now instead of, waiting for the, 2, 3, motivated buyers to give you a call, I could look at, 150, 200 interested parties that just looked at the listing and start a conversation with, hey, I saw you looked at my deal, why'd you look at it? And, while all of them weren't buyers, a lot of them were looking at commercial real estate for one reason or another. And it was really, me and my team's job to unpack, why are you looking at this deal, right? Sometimes it was, I've got a deal I'm considering selling, and I'm just kind of checking to see where the market is. And, the conversation moves from there. But I think that in and of itself was really transformational for me and my business. And eventually Crexi, who's, they track everything on their site, who's visiting it, how many clicks, what they're clicking on. They had noticed how I was a power user, I guess, and said, hey, what would it take to get you to, leave brokerage and come join the tech side? Which for me, it was kind of a no-brainer, just seeing how quickly they entered the space and transformed my business. I knew that, they were going to do the same for other brokers and for the industry in general. So it was it's been a ride, somebody smarter than me once said, if somebody offers you a ride on a rocket ship, you don't ask which seat, you just get on. And so that's kind of how I approached it and wound up in Crexi.
Nice. And what year did you join?
2018, beginning of 2019. Let's see, I'm coming up on 5 years next month. So
yeah, I mean, with that background, then it's because your role within Crexi, obviously you do the podcast, but it's primarily sales, right? So you're you're pitching the product to brokers, to owners, right? That's what you're doing day to day typically, or?
The podcast is kind of the small hat that I wear. The bigger hat is business development on one of our product lines, which is our auction platform. I think most people know Crexi for its marketplace, and that's definitely where it started. But since then, since I was an agent at Marcus, it's really transformed into so much more than that. And one of those things is the transaction platform and the auctions that are hosted on Crexi's site with our technology. So a lot of that is identifying deals that are a good fit for an auction, helping educate stakeholders within the industry about the auction platform, the auction process, and how it can benefit their day to day. I think if it was something that I was aware of when I was in brokerage, I definitely would have sold more deals, or maybe said yes to more deals that I knew, hey, I've actually got the right tool for this. And that's going to be, through an auction. It's not going to be a perfect fit for every deal, but there's definitely a lot of deals where a paycheck that I otherwise wouldn't have made, I could have made, doing it through the auction platform. So that's kind of my day to day right now, is really supporting the auction platform and, helping integrate brokers, buyers into how to utilize that auction platform.
And then why don't we go through the different offerings Crexi has, where probably most people know it just as a place where properties are listed for sale with a price, like more of a traditional listing. And then, but there's more than that. So why don't we just run through them all just at any order you'd like?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I touched on auctions, which in a very short amount of time, the auction platform has already broken some records. We have the record now for the single largest online transaction. It was a office industrial park in Las Vegas, the Beltway Business Park. Starting bid of $150 million and a final winning bid of $205 million. So a little feather on our hat there. It was an exciting one to be a part of. Also, intelligence. So that's going to be comps data, debt information, traffic counts, demographics, occupancies in different markets. The intelligence offering now is such a huge piece of, what Crexi, brings to the table for people in commercial real estate. Aside from having, proprietary data, which, we're collecting quite a bit of it now. We've got over 3 million monthly site visitors. There's also, we've got partnerships with title companies as well as relationships directly with counties to, we've got every parcel mapped in the United States. We've got ownership information, debt maturity dates, all that stuff. So I think the intelligence offering is kind of a huge piece. It's a little bit newer, but it definitely is making a big impact. There's also, networking tools, due diligence hubs. We actually utilize the due diligence hubs pretty heavily on the auction side. So, once an auction is successful, we actually take it through a closing tracker that's a tool on Crexi where, all of the parties that are closing are, kind of meeting in one spot like a war room where, all the documents are there. You can build a timeline of when specific things are supposed to happen at different times and dates. And everything is centralized and at a glance, really easy to see, which is especially helpful for our team when they're doing, 40, 50, 60 deals, every couple weeks.
Yeah. Is that the property data product? Is that the name of that one, or that's something else with the related to sales?
So there's the intelligence offering, and that's going to include property data, ownership information, comps, demographics. That's all going to be part of our intelligence offering. Original offering for brokers is what we call our pro tools, which is really kind of the next level of marketing on Crexi. I think one of the really innovative things about Crexi from its beginning is we've always strived to foster a environment of transparency and democratization in commercial real estate. And one of the ways to do that is we've made it an open platform. So anybody can come to Crexi. They don't have to pay $1. They can search the entire marketplace. They can see every deal. Nothing is being, hidden or paywalled. Any broker can come and put their property up here for sale or for lease for free. Where the pro subscription comes in is we're using Crexi's data to help market those properties, those listings, those leasing offerings, and targeting people based on what their search results are, what they're actually clicking on, what they're searching for. I mentioned before, they've got a lot of data of who's clicking on what they're looking for. And it works a lot like, Amazon or Netflix. You go to Netflix and, you watch, World War II in color. And, tomorrow it's going to say, hey, you might also like, the Civil War, right? Machine learning is just being utilized and implemented in a really smart way, which is, hey, let's get this deal in front of the people that are actually looking for deals like this based on, where it's located, its size, its price range, whatever those, overlapping, qualities are, we're able to kind of fine tune and target the right buyer, and we use that ourselves, right? So it worked tremendously for me as an agent at Marcus. We utilize that on the auction platform as well. And so I think that's kind of the traditional offering that most people are familiar with is that pro subscription, marketing your properties to our database of users and, utilizing Crexi's database, those visitors to, make sure we're getting the deal in front of the right people.
Okay, nice. Yeah, because when I went across the top of the website, it had, just reloading it now, but yeah, it had for sale, for lease, and then I clicked on something, and then it got me where the other stuff was property data, and then intelligence. So I didn't know if the property data was a whole nother product, but that's something that you would have access to with the pro subscription. Then sounds like.
Yeah, the pro subscription. There's an offering, I believe it's called All Pro, and with that you get everything, and there is a way to kind of cut it up based on what it is that, you're actually using. So, if you don't do leasing, you probably don't need pro leasing stuff. If you're doing sales and leasing, you'll want to get everything under the hood at once. One of the things that really sold me, like when I started using Crexi at Marcus, it was free. They actually hadn't monetized yet. Before they had, turned on monetization, I had already, gotten and closed several listings like directly related to the stuff that I was doing on Crexi. So they called me and they said, hey, we're going from free to this monthly, moderate monthly payment. Are you in? I was like, take it. You've already, paid for yourself, 10 times over. So, yeah, let's do it. So, for me, it was kind of a no brainer. And, the offering's only getting better and better. We're continuing to innovate. We take a lot of feedback from people in the market. So we'll have brokers tell us, hey, I like this, but it would really be more useful if it did X, Y, or Z. We actually have a direct relationship, a direct, line to our product team. And we can say, hey, we're getting this feedback, let's do this. And, we've got a pretty quick turnaround when it comes to implementing those, recommendations, and how to improve the user experience. So, it's nice to kind of be an agile, scrappy startup because you can get things done quickly. And, we're still in that phase of, massive growth and improving and innovating. We've got some, pretty exciting stuff planned for the coming year. I can't talk about some of it, but being a marketplace doesn't necessarily like reinvent the wheel, right? But even though we've made a better looking and faster spinning wheel, I think that we're coming out with some things this year that are really going to, kind of change the game in a big way. So I'm excited to be part of it and see how it transforms the industry.
Yeah. And is there any of that you can talk about now, or that's more got to wait and...
Well, you got to wait and see. I mean, I think anybody that's using Crexi now already knows that, our interface and the user experience is the best in the market right now. The dashboards are really easy to use, both on the buyer and the seller side. Crexi makes it, really easy to, engage with the market and, use the tools. I think that is only, I think we're already the best at it, but I think we're, quickly starting to eclipse other experiences by merit of what we have coming. So I can't say too much about it other than, it gets me excited because, on the inside, I get to kind of test some of this stuff out and, give feedback to the product team before it starts getting rolled out. And, my mind is actually pretty blown by what we've got coming. So, if you're a fan of Crexi already, strap in because it's going to be, we got some good stuff coming.
All right. Nice. Well, yeah, we'll wait and see what, and then if for today, at least if someone, I guess, what are the times you'd be paying Crexi, if you will, because it sounded like if you're a broker, you want to list the deal for sale, there's no cost at that point. It's only if it does sell, or is that how it still works?
So you can list a deal for free. If you want to unlock the contact information of the leads that are coming to your deal, you would need a subscription for that, right? People can reach you
like.
Yeah, that's that pro account. Okay. Yeah, that pro account. People can reach you through the tools on Crexi, so they can send a message to this broker, hey, I'm interested in this deal. And you can communicate through the Crexi site. But when you have a pro account, not only does it unlock the contact information, phone number, email address, any background that they've filled out on their Crexi account, it also, you're going to get priority tile placement. So, when you search for, specific terms on the site, if you're a pro, if you have a pro subscription, your deal is going to appear, first in those search results, which, I don't know how many times you go to Google and search something and then hit the 9th or 10th page of results. But most people usually, start their search around, the first couple of results. So that's definitely a huge benefit. So you would pay for that pro subscription to unlock that contact information. And for me, that's where, That's where a lot of money is in that contact information. You can actually do some pretty cool things with, the notifications you get. Like, for example, when I was at Marcus, I would set my OMs being opened to a text message notification. And, I instructed my team, anytime somebody opens your OM, you're going to get a text that says, hey, Drew just opened your OM for your Walgreens. I go, call them right then. I don't care if you're in the middle of lunch, finish the bite you're on and give Drew a call, because that there's, a couple things that are true about Drew right now. He's on his computer, he's looking for commercial real estate, and he's got your deal in front of him. Like, can you imagine a better time to talk to him? Right. And so 9 times out of 10, the person I would call would be like, whoa, how'd you do that? Like, I'm looking at your deal right now. It's like, I know you're looking at it. Tell me, why are you looking at it? What can I do for you? 1 times out of 10, they were like a little creeped out by it. Like, this is too much.
Yeah.
But
they're probably like, let me look at this first for a second. I don't even know what I'm looking at yet.
Repeatedly turned into, more conversations with the right people, right? Hey, you got my deal in front of you. You looking for something like this? You selling something like this? What's the story? And I think that especially when you're getting started in this industry, the ramp up time can be a little slow. You want to really get as many swings as you can and as quickly as possible to, get those reps up, get used to talking to the right people, asking the right questions, and, getting meetings, getting proposals, and, getting deals done. So, I think that's where the real value is. And then, there's comps, there's traffic counts, as I mentioned, demographics, all that stuff that comes with that pro subscription. The auction platform works a little bit differently. So, there's no cost to the broker or the seller to do an auction on Crexi's platform. The winning bidder actually pays Crexi's marketing fee at closing in addition to their winning bid. So on the auction, it's like a 45-day marketing period. Crexi's going to market it parallel to the listing agent, and they work together and they collaborate on that marketing going up to the actual auction. When the bidding starts, the bidders are making all cash, non-contingent offers to buy the property as is and close in 30 days with a 10% non-refundable earnest money deposit. So from a seller's perspective, I'm setting a reserve price. It's the minimum that I'm willing to transact the property for. And, if a bid doesn't meet or exceed my reserve price, I don't have to sell. But you always have the option to lower that reserve price and accept a high bid. You set reserve for your, apartment building at $1 million. There's a high bid at $950. You can say, hey, I want to lock that $950 in. Or you could say, hey, no, I need to hit $1 million. If you don't hit it, it doesn't cost you anything to go through that process. So we only get paid if it trades. So, we're directly aligned with the broker and the seller to want to attract as many people as possible to that auction, get them bidding and competing, and help them with a smooth transaction. And I will say we've got the best auction team in the market right now.
And typically is the if there's a broker on it, then they're getting paid also by the buyer, or that's still a seller expense, or how's that? I get the Crexi buyer premiums, the buyer paid, but
so the listing agent is still getting paid through their listing agreement with the seller. The seller's only real costs are their traditional closing costs, right? Paying their broker, transfer taxes, whatever's customary for that state. They're still going to have their traditional closing costs. There's just no additional fee to Crexi to run the process, whether it's successful or not.
And roughly how much is the Crexi marketing fee? That I just called the buyer premium, but that's
it's a minimum of $20,000 or a percentage of the sale price, and it's going to depend on the size of the deal. So if anybody's interested in digging in, send me an email and I can give you a more specific answer. But it's going to be typically, from what I've heard, lower than going through some more traditional auction routes. So it's a moderate expense tacked on to the buyer. but definitely falls within kind of what's expected for the service that's being provided. And it's been a huge benefit already, to both us and I think a lot of the people in the market that are engaging with these tools, because a lot of times people that are familiar with auctions have brought a cashier's check to the county courthouse, ready to get a deal done. And we had an influx of demand for a digital tool that could allow these groups to continue to run auctions. Like we have an auction coming up in a couple of weeks for Clark County, the governing county of Las Vegas, where we do a land auction for Clark County. It is always a great event, and kind of a good example of how to replace something that really used to be only the people that were within earshot of where a physical auction would be, has now transformed into, look, anybody in any market that has the cash can engage with that. And I think that's true across kind of the industry in terms of how technology is transforming it, right? It really does give people a way to kind of reach across into other markets and, look at deals that they otherwise wouldn't have considered, because now the information, is out there. Anybody can access it.
I've noticed that where I hear some of these old stories where where I used to live in Chicago, so there was a lot of opportunities to hear Sam Zell talk, because he was really great about going to all ULI, just all sorts of things where I saw him talk. And he talked about one of the first deals he bought. It was a hotel in Reno, and he heard about it through word of mouth, and no one wanted to buy it. Like, how crazy is that nowadays? Like the avenues, like today there'd be a broker on it. It would be sent to a big list, and if it was still slow, then right, we could have an auction on the internet now. And there was like all these avenues. And yeah, he was talking about how it was such a steal, but it was literally because there was no one else was looking at it. And then he got some, billionaire in Chicago to invest with him, or, one of the Pritzkers, where it was like just, like, wow, that was really a little different in the 70s or 60s, whatever that was. So it's a little,
yeah.
So
it's funny, as the tools change and evolve, it really does change how the business is done. I remember, my manager at Marcus would tell me that, for him to, build a directory of owners to call, he would drive through neighborhoods with index cards and, take pictures of buildings and write an address on there. And then, take that to a title company and pull a huge list of ownership information. And, that was his CRM, was index cards.
yeah.
And he's still, transacting and in the business. And he's like, man, this is so much better than, the index cards that I used to have. And I go, even, when the fax came, people, were doing deals and sending information via fax. I think that the faster information, which I think everybody's really thirsty for right now, is, how much more information can I get? How much better equipped can I approach, this market, this deal, this transaction? Really helps, everybody, win. I think it's a little harder to find that, diamond in the rough deal that nobody knows about anymore. It's a little tougher to find those absolute steals as a buyer. But from the seller side, you can be a little more confident that, hey, if it's up there, if it's, on Crexi, if, it's being marketed right, then everybody is going to have an opportunity to know about it and engage with it. And, I think that really leads to a better experience for everybody.
Yeah. And I was going to ask too, so for like a seller, what's typically, what do they say is the reason they're turning to the auction option? So, because obviously they could just go the regular route. They probably already have a broker and just kind of go we'll call it the slow way. So what do you usually hear? What's the reason?
I think there's a couple of reasons why a seller would engage with an auction. I think one, it does create a level playing field for the bidders, and you've got a level playing field in terms of the terms of the deal itself. Everybody's using the same purchase agreement that is agreed to before they start bidding, right? It's all cash. It's non-contingent. There's a non-refundable earnest money deposit. So you get a much higher certainty of closing. when you run an auction. You're not going to enter escrow and then get, retraded, a couple days before the removal of contingencies. There are no contingencies, right? So I think for a seller, it really gives them the opportunity to, put all of the buyers on the same footing and say, hey, the terms are already agreed upon. Everybody's playing by the same set of rules. For the buyer, I think the huge benefit is the transparency of the deal. By that I mean, in a traditional listing scenario, if I'm submitting an offer on a deal and the seller says, hey, we've selected your offer, congratulations, we're rewarding you this deal. I don't know if I'm the highest offer by 10,000 or 210,000, right? I just know that mine was selected, right? I'm submitting that offer into a vacuum with really no information. In the auction setting, once the reserve for an auction has been met, I know for a fact that the only other people bidding on this are other players like myself that are engaging in wanting to buy this property. And I can see the current bid at all times. So each bid justifies the next one. So, maybe I'm 100,000 over where I underwrote the deal and somebody outbids me by 25,000. Outbidding them by another 25,000 isn't that crazy, knowing that they're willing to pay 25K less, right? And that continues to ramp it up. So each bid justifies the next one, which is just super unique to the auction experience itself. It's really where we get into those kind of, bidding war scenarios where, we've got a couple of really interested buyers really, kind of punching each other one bid at a time, higher and higher, because they know somebody's willing to pay the minimum increment less than them on that. It stops becoming about, hey, we passed the reserve, $500,000 ago. It's, hey, it's only another 10,000, 25,000 to be on top again. And people don't like losing, just especially in this industry, people love to win. So I think tapping into that psychology and, having that transparency is really what's yielding, such great results for us.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then is there a certain type of property that's done the best so far in these auctions in terms of just either size, location, product type?
I think that auction used to be a 4-letter word, a little while ago, and you would expect to see, tougher deals, the dogs with fleas, that sort of thing. I think with the way that the tools have evolved, it's really become more about, leveraging the massive reach that you can get online through an auction setting. Great locations, great markets, highly desirable real estate is really what's kind of shining right now on the auction platform. That's not to say it isn't a good tool for, troubled assets. Certainly there are a lot of, groups out there, and, there's a lot of debt coming due, this year in the commercial real estate market where, lenders are going to have to figure it out, and, they may be clearing, some of their assets, and they're going to be looking to meet the market in an auction format. I think if you have really clear expectations on, what you're trying to achieve, and you understand the auction process, then, I think any deal can actually be a good candidate for an auction. I think the ones that are tough, office right now is kind of tough across the board. Both vacant and occupied. It's been a little bit tougher. Vacant land, just raw land is a little more challenging in some regards. Having said that, I think we have kind of a disproportionate success rate when it comes to land. We do a lot of land successfully. I think, again, it comes down to, having realistic expectations and, setting reachable reserve prices that really lets the buyers be the ones to compete and push on pricing. There's two kind of ways to approach an auction, right? I'm going to set a high reserve and hope the market gets there, or I'm going to set a low reserve and get those bidders pushing each other up. And, of the two of those methods, hitting a reserve at a time where you've got multiple engaged bidders is really the most successful route that I've seen by far. A lot of times, the bidding ends up going far beyond where anybody expected it. When you're setting that reasonable reserve where it's like, oh, well, this is a great deal. Like, let's stay locked in here. Let's keep bidding, versus trying to get those bidders to like stretch and get up to a number. Most of them will disengage before you get to that stretch point where, you may have all of them compete and push it up beyond that.
I've noticed that on the non-auction properties where, they price something low, you get everybody in a frenzy. Everybody's talking about this deal. And then it, goes for over what what you would have thought at the end of the day. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Do you have in the intelligence product then, do you have like current day market info? I'd be curious what you guys are seeing just for maybe let's say the multifamily market. Like what any sort of insights you have on how that's doing?
Yeah, I mean, we have market info. So one of the, I think, cool and useful tools that you can use Crexi with is, whatever your search result is, either if it's for on market or for comps, you can actually take that search and ask to see the insights of that search result, which is going to tell you a lot of information from like, average listed cap rate versus closed cap rate, right? Price per square foot listed versus closed. You can have a pretty clear relationship with the data. In terms of, what we're seeing internally for how the market is moving. I don't want to get into too many specifics, but I can say generally speaking, we are seeing a bigger desire for more data across every product type. Personally, what I'm seeing on auctions is, heavy interest in multifamily, retail, both stabilize and value add, self-storage, hospitality, industrial, net lease industrial. Again, office being a little bit, still thawing out, I think that the tools are making it easier for people to really engage with that information and kind of evaluate the markets they want to get in. So yeah, if you've got access to those tools, you can say, hey, I want to see, what's on market versus what's closed and how that data is trending. And then, again, you can use those demographic tools to say, I'm looking for markets that are, have this kind of population density or growing and enter those markets. So yeah, I want to shy away from talking too specifically about, any particular market.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah. And I think probably another thing I was wanting to know about is, so with AI then, have you guys do anything to incorporate AI, or how do you think that could be incorporated someday? Or
yeah, I mean, just, generally speaking, AI is just, it's already transforming, a lot of different industries. I think it's, a matter of time before you start seeing AI, kind of enter every sector of the market. Like a good friend of mine is an editor, video editor, and a lot of the things that would take him hours to do while editing, now he can just type a prompt and the AI will actually do it for him. He used to have to outsource the music composition for some of the things he would be editing, and now there's an AI tool where he can say, hey, I want orchestra music, and at 10 seconds it builds, at 20 seconds it becomes really soft and flutes play, and like really get specific about what he wants, and then AI just pops it out. Yeah, I think it's going to have a huge impact really on every industry. Have you played with Chat GPT? Are you familiar with some of the tools there?
I have a little, but not for any real financial analysis, more just for writing things. Or we've tried using it some for our marketing, and I don't know, at least for that, I felt like it was putting out like a word soup that was just a lot of big words, but didn't really mean a lot. So I have it. It hasn't done. I haven't cracked that code.
That's like the same as hiring like a first-year college student to bang out emails, just throwing all the SAT words they know out there and. But, AI and ChatGPT, it's going to college now, it's getting more information, it's getting smarter. So, I think it's only going to be more and more valuable in terms of, how people interact with it and utilize those tools. So
I think so too. I mean, there's some very smart people that I know in real estate where they're using it. They're also using people that are offshore, or you would have never thought they'd be doing that, and where times are definitely changing. Well, great. Well, yeah, sounds great, Yannis. I mean, let's leave it there. Thanks for being on. How can Brenneman Blueprint listeners, viewers get in touch with you? They want to learn more about Crexi.
Yeah. You can send me an email. It's my first name, Yannis, YANNIS @Crexi.com. Or I'll give out my number if anybody wants to give me a call and talk about it. It's 310-346-6741. Or you can find me on LinkedIn. But yeah, shoot me an email, give me a call, and happy to connect.
Thanks for being on. And that's the broker move. All the brokers or former brokers are just fine giving out their phone number everywhere. So it's funny.
Yeah, right. Give me a call. I may not answer it, but I will give you a call back. So
awesome. Thanks, Yannis. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Drew. Take care. Appreciate being on.
If you learned something from today's show, leave a review and hit that subscribe button wherever you enjoy your podcast. Dive deeper into real estate investing on Brenneman Capital's website, brenneman.com, where we have numerous free resources and information that can help both active and passive real estate investors. Accredited investors can get started today as a passive investor in our multifamily investment opportunities by hitting the Invest Now button on our website.
The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of Drew Brenneman and guests as of the date of recording and do not purport to reflect the views or opinions of Brenneman Capital LLC and its subsidiaries. Views and opinions are provided for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon or deemed as investment or tax advice or an offer to buy or sell securities. The speaker cannot be held responsible for any direct or incidental loss incurred by applying any of the information offered.